Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 136. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. I am the host of this show, and I'm so excited that you are joining us for another week, or if you're new, welcome officially. Today, we're doing a solo episode, so I'm just going to be riffing on the question and helping you do this, helping you solve this, which is the question of how do I plan my six-figure year? So I'm super excited to get into this topic because it's one that I love, and I did the thing that I always kind of harp on other online marketers and online coaches. I harp on what they do and what I want my clients not to do, which is to aim for these vanity figures. But I obviously did that to get you to listen to the episode or to watch the episode if you're in the Wealthy Entrepreneur group. Just so you know, if you do join my private Facebook community, it's obviously on Facebook, it's called The Wealthy Entrepreneur, then you can get access to these episodes weeks in advance now. They used to be days in advance, now it is officially weeks in advance. So go to Facebook, type in The Wealthy Entrepreneur, and join us. I can't wait to see you there. But I typically say, don't aim for these vanity numbers. And what I mean by vanity numbers is six figures or 5 figures or 5-figure months, 6-figure months, 7-figure business. All of the things that you see, in your news feed, in the ads, you see these various coaches kind of talking about building a 6-figure business and how that is like the end all be all. My motto is really to break that wall. But obviously I needed to use that. I probably didn't need to use it, but I used it to attract you to this episode because at the end of the day, it's a great thing to shoot for, but I have more points within this episode on how you can actually achieve, if it is a 6-figure year that you want to build, how you can actually achieve it. And one of those points is to not aim for vanity numbers. So I hope that made sense. I know it's kind of like a cat or a dog chasing its tail, but it'll make more sense as we get into this week's episode. So we're going to dive in. I have 5 different kind of steps to go through so that you can start making the end of 2019 a really good time to start planning and putting things together so you can take off with your business in 2020, or even maybe a little bit sooner. I'm doing a lot of things at the end of 2019 I did not think I was going to do that might bring in more business even before the year ends. And if that's something that feels right for you and an alignment for you, then by all means, go for it and allow this planning session to be kind of that jumping off point to go, okay, now I know what numbers I need to hit. Here I go. I'm getting to it. So before we get into the 5 different steps, I do just want to do some announcements and take this opportunity to let you know what's happening over the next couple of weeks. So we are finally in the month of December, and that's an exciting time. It's the final month of the year, a perfect time to be planning for your next year if you haven't started yet. We're going to be doing a lot of fun things between this month and next month, January, where we are going to be diving into some planning, but also action taking to really get your business and your life on a whole new level. There's a lot of different things going on. Starting next week, I'm going to be doing a series where I'm doing the 12 days of money mindset every single day for 12 days between December 12th and December 23rd, I believe. You're going to be getting a new podcast episode from me. It'll be much shorter than the usual podcast episodes, but you'll get a new podcast episode from me sharing my tips, tricks, strategies, or just something that blew my mind that I want to share with you about money mindset. It's going to be accompanied by some questions that you can journal on or think through, or even some maybe challenges for you to take on over the course of that day. And, if you join later, that's okay. It should be pretty binge worthy because the episodes will be short. And it's really just about a little bit of self-reflection and a little bit of priming for you to get into 2020 and have 2020 be the year where you really work on your relationship with money and how you act and respond and behave around money And that is really working on, so that we can get to a good relationship. It's working on the thoughts and the feelings we have about money, which is what money mindset is. You'll learn more about that in the series. So stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you can be part of our 12 Days of Money Mindset series. It's going to be fun. I might even be adding some video components. So I guess you'll just find out on the first day, which is happening next week, December 12th. For those who are in The Wealthy Entrepreneur and watching this live, you're probably thinking, why are you saying we're in December? Because I am recording this a couple weeks early, as I mentioned. And that's what you get when you join the Wealthy Entrepreneur Group. You get super early access to some of these episodes. All right, the other thing I wanted to mention is if you are a business owner, and maybe you've been hearing about these little things that I like to call payday parties, we are hosting the first official payday party of 2020 starting on January 6th. So you want to stay tuned. I'm going to be announcing when the official cart and registration opens. I guess when I email the guest list and let you all know that the party is happening and this is when you can show up, you'll obviously get to know all of that if you get on the guest list. So go to wanderwealthy.com/party so that you can get on the guest list. But the payday parties are my special week-long workshop that I organize for fellow business owners who are working on setting some purpose-driven revenue goals and really want to take a super comprehensive approach to setting their goals. And, this 6-figure year, how to plan that out, is a little bit of a sneak peek at what we do inside of the payday parties. So you're going to have a lot of clarity and specificity around what you're trying to achieve in your year for your business, but we're also going deep into the money mindset aspect, making sure that you don't have any sort of thought gremlins that are popping up telling you, oh no, you can't charge that much, or how dare you make that much money. We'll really work on identifying the limiting money beliefs and blocks that you bump into when you really work with money. And we do all of that throughout the week-long Payday Party Workshop, as well as me giving you access to my super awesome financial dashboard that I use with my clients that you can plug and chug your numbers into and get some really insightful numbers coming out of it, as well as something that you can use month after month or even week after week as you implement your very own payday parties into your year and your months. So more on that to come, but the Payday Party Workshop is going to be kicking off again. We haven't done one since October, and it's going to happen that first official week of 2020 starting January 6th. So just hop on the guest list. Even if you're curious, you can check out a little bit about the Payday Party by going to wanderwealthy.com/party and learn more. All right, let's jump into this week's topic, the juicy stuff. And we're going to dive into how to plan your 6-figure year. So I hope you have your seatbelts on. I'm sorry, that was lame. Okay, number 1. And this is something that is, I think, maybe the most important. It's a little mindset-y too. And it's that you need to, before even, sitting down and going, what are my products going to be, or what are my service offerings going to be, and when I'm going to launch, and who am I going to market to? Before you do all that, I want you to just get in the mindset and get comfortable with getting specific. A lot of people avoid getting specific about, when it comes to their money, when it comes to the numbers. Even sometimes when you're thinking about business analytics, you could get really, resistance around setting specific number goals, because I think we have two things going on. When we set a number and we set a goal that has like a specific number to it and we fall short of that number, then we've failed. And alternatively to that, if we set a number, then we're putting a cap on ourselves. And this kind of relates to one of the solo shows I did recently about whether saving is scarcity. Not necessarily about that topic, but about some of us come from kind of a natural scarcity-oriented place. I think most of us come naturally scarcity-oriented. And then the others, some of us are like always optimistic. I am not always optimistic. I was not born with like a sunny disposition. And so I am naturally wired toward like pessimism in a way. I don't like hearing it come out of my mouth, but I'm naturally maybe not pessimism, but I'm naturally geared towards skepticism or like, does that really work? And so when you think about getting specific and setting specific numbers, again, those natural orientations pop up because if you are more geared towards like skepticism, pessimism, more scarcity, you feel this nudge of like, if I put that number down and I fall short of it, then I'm a failure. I've failed somehow. And if you are more naturally, sunny disposition, optimistic, abundantly aligned, which there's not many of us out there. So if you are, good on you. But you can get into I don't want to put a cap on myself. I don't want to put a specific number out there because I don't want to cap my potential because I'm so abundant. And I get both ends of that argument. But here is my argument. Getting specific about your numbers is so important. And I've talked about this before and I can't reiterate it enough. Your subconscious mind, the part of your brain that is responsible for like 80 to 95% of every action that you take in your day, it loves to take orders, and it loves those orders to be very specific. And so when you're walking about your day and you start to notice things pop up because you had thought about it maybe a couple days ago, or maybe you just bought, and I've made this example before, maybe you've just bought a certain type of car, or you've started thinking about buying a certain type of car, then you start seeing that car everywhere. Or in my case, it's but having lived in Chicago for several years, and now I see Bulls jerseys all over Europe. Granted, the Bulls, I think, are one of the most popular basketball teams, but still, like, I don't recognize or pay attention to any of the other jerseys. But it's because my subconscious mind is going out and looking for those very specific things. And it's not even that like I'm distracting myself to look. It's just that I notice when something makes a connection in my subconscious, right? We have neurons that are all firing, and they form together to create these little like neural pathways. And when we are starting to, learn something new, they form together and work together as a team and fire away. And that helps us, do anything from when we were learning how to walk to learning how to ride a bike to me more recently learning how to drive a stick shift. And when this is happening, it starts to fire. And because we start noticing specific things around us, not consciously, but just subconsciously, it brings it to the surface. And so when I happen to, gaze past a Bulls jersey, like I have no interest in that whatsoever, except that it hits something that sends a message to my subconscious mind. It says, this is important, pay attention to it. And this can directly link back to why it is important for you to set specific goals, because you would be so surprised. And a lot of people like to say like, well, the universe then shows up for you. And in a way it does. But what I think it more so is, and like I'm all about, giving praise to the universe, but what I think it more specifically is your subconscious mind shows up for you because you give it something to look for. Our brains, our subconscious parts of our brain, the thing that is responsible for most of our actions and behaviors, it is not good, and we've heard this before on previous podcasts interviewing April Seifert, it is not good at looking at things. But if you can give it something to look for, to seek out, to find, it's going to pay attention. And consciously, you're not really going to be thinking about it, but subconsciously, it's going to be like, there's that brand opportunity that I've always wanted. Or, there's the perfect client that I so specifically have set for myself. Or, there's the 5 people. Like I just wanted a minimum of 5 people to get into my program. And there they are. I worked with a client over the summer. It was like spring into summer this year. And, she had set a goal of 20 people into her program. And she had 5. And she was, I think, like a week until she was closing this program down. And I don't know what happened, but her subconscious mind went to work for her because she had a goal of 20 and she decided she was going to make it happen. And every opportunity popped up that by the end of that week, that 1 week left that she had, maybe it was 2, but regardless, all of a sudden the remaining 15 showed up and signed up for her program. And it wasn't 21 and it wasn't 19, it was 20. And so I think that is just interesting to pay attention to. We hear these stories a lot, and we hear that people like put the number down, and then like the universe goes to work and meets, what number you put for yourself. But really what's happening is your subconscious mind is going to work because you have set that specific goal. Now, the last step that I'm going to talk about is going to get to, that fear that comes up of either, oh, I don't want to cap myself, or I don't want to set a goal that then I might fail if I set it. We're going to come back to this, but I just want to say that step one of, making a plan for your 6-figure year is getting comfortable with getting specific down to the penny, because the more specific you can make it, the more willing, your subconscious mind is going to go out to fill all of those pennies up to that official finite number that you've set. There's also the example that when you tell yourself like, oh, I just want to make more money, because a lot of us get, we don't want to get specific. So we just say, I just want to be more abundant, or I want to make more money, or I just want to attract more money into my life. And that's great, but what does that actually mean? What is the specific, tangible number that we can give our subconscious mind to go to work for us in ways that we don't even quite understand, except that we know that when we make something apparent, we start noticing that very thing the next day and the next week and the next month. And if you can think about this in the form of business opportunity or financial opportunity, even if you don't run a business, but just new opportunities to bring more money in, it happens. But we are afraid of putting that physical number out there because of what I had just suggested. But your subconscious mind takes things literally as well. And so it loves specificity, it loves taking orders, it loves taking direct orders, but it also takes things literally. So if you say, go find more money, or just make me more abundant, it might put things into your life. You walk across a penny on the ground, or someone gives you $20 and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm so abundant. I got this. But your subconscious mind is also like, well, there's your more money that you've been looking for. There's your abundance. And abundance can show up in other ways too. It can show up in non-financial forms, which is great, but also not going to help you pay the bills or build a thriving, sustainable business. So we can get all the freebies we want, but they're not going to, take care of the bottom line. And so it is really important to, you can and you are allowed to be abundance focused and have a goal of being more abundant. But let's take that goal and make it more specific. And in the case of your business, I think it's pretty obvious. What is the number you're shooting for? Now, my notes for this step really flow into the second step, which is to sit down and do the calculation. And again, a lot of people have resistance around that. It's the resistance of setting a specific number. It's also the resistance of, a lot of our crutches, which is leaning on, well, I'm not good with math, or I'm not good with money. I don't know how to calculate it. The calculation is very, very easy. I break it down in the Easy Profit Roadmap, which you can get. You can click the link in the description of this episode, go to the show notes, or you can literally just type in wanderwealthy.com/roadmap. I take you through 5 steps that I take my clients through, but the most important part as it relates to this episode is the Easy Profit Math. It's a formula that backs out of your revenue goal by using some numbers that we do know, or some kind of goal percentages that we would like to hit. And so I'm going to talk about that in a second. But the reason why having specificity and linking this into the calculation, why it's really important is because the calculation doesn't base things off of, oh, you want to hit a revenue goal of 6 figures, or, oh, you want to hit, you want 5-figure months, or you want to have that 7-figure business. That might be the result when you do the math. But what is much more important for me is that you are putting specific, personal, relevant numbers into this calculation to get an even more specific goal. And what I mean by that is when you sit down and you go through the Easy Profit Roadmap and you do the math, you'll see that you need to set an income amount. And this is not a revenue goal. This is how much do you want to be making And you have to annualize it, but you can start with how much do I want to make on a monthly basis? Like personally, what do I want to take home personally and be able to pay my personal bills on a monthly basis? What would that look like? And you don't have to include taxes, because the way that I set businesses up to run from a cash flow perspective is the business pays the owner's taxes, the owner's income taxes for them. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Don't worry about it if you're like, taxes, I don't want to think about that. But know that, okay, what do I need from a like net income perspective? Like what gets deposited into my bank account every single month so I can cover all of the bills. And if you want to not do a reality, like a realistic budget, you want to actually dream a little bit bigger, maybe take yourself to the next step or go way big and do big dream budget, you absolutely can. Decide which one you're going to go with and do the full formula, and then you can create multiple iterations of this formula. Let's just say you're doing like, what do you need? What would make your life comfortable if you could pay yourself this amount? So what is your income goal? And if you have a monthly number, then multiply it by 12 and you get an annual number. The reason we do annual numbers is because we have to think about the full year. So many of us miss those like semi-annual expenses or those one-time, once a year expenses. For business expenses, this happens a lot. So really think about the full year and all the costs. And then since we are at the end of the year, this is a great time to kind of review the last year of all of your personal spending and what you had to pay for, and kind of figure out, what would I like to make? What would that income number be? So take that annual number. And then what we do is we also do that for our business. What are all the expenses we've paid for the business in the last year? Are there any kind of next level expenses we'd like to add in as an annual expense? Or maybe it's a monthly, maybe you want to hire an assistant or something and it's going to be a monthly expense, but then you figure out what that is annually and figure out what your total business expenses on an annual basis are. What does your business need to stay afloat? And so you can add those, and then you can divide by 1 minus and then the total of the 2 percentages that we're going to talk about. The 2 percentages include your taxes. So obviously your business has to pay taxes. If you are, and I talked about this recently in the last solo show episode about sole proprietor, LLC, S Corp. But if you are a sole proprietor or an LLC, then you just pay taxes as yourself, but your business should absolutely be setting the money aside to cover those taxes. Also because you usually have to pay quarterly taxes, or we all should, but some of us choose not to, and then you just pay a fee. But you're usually paying quarterly taxes, and so why not set money aside so that you can cover those quarterly taxes at 4 times a year? So we need to figure out what percentage of the income, the revenue, let's call it revenue, that you're making in your business you should be setting aside for taxes. This is very different than what a lot of accountants will have you do. Accountants will, they basically, what an accountant is going to do is going to calculate your tax percentage based off of profit. And so a lot of times they'll be like, okay, well, set aside, 35% of your profit or something like that. But what we want to do is base this percentage off of our revenue so that we can be proactive about saving for taxes, because it takes a while to figure out what your profit is, but it's pretty quick and easy to figure out what your revenue is. It's whatever you just got deposited into your business bank account. So we want to do a percentage of revenue. That means that percentage, that overall percentage, if your accountant's saying like 35% on your profit, it's going to be a smaller percentage of your revenue because your revenue is always bigger than your profit, right? So you don't have to figure this out. Ask your accountant. They should be able to help you. All they have to do is go, okay, well, here's the revenue that you brought in last year, and here's the total amount of taxes that you paid. And so, if we want to be a little conservative, we can bump it up, and this is the percentage you should set. But you need to figure out what that percentage is. As a starting point, I say like a good starting point could be 20%, but you need to adjust based off of what your accountant suggests. The other percentage you want to identify is your profit percentage. Every business deserves to be profitable, even for your sake. Like, even if you're not going to use that money to reinvest in the business, which in some cases, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should just focus on taking care of yourself. Us business owners, we go through a lot, especially when we're kind of like small mom and pop shops. So take care of yourself and use the profit distributions from your business to do just that, as well as build up as kind of like a buffer for your business so that you can rely on that as an emergency savings fund or, something that you do want to be able to say yes to in the future. I've talked about this in another episode on why your business needs an emergency savings fund. And by the way, all these episodes I'm referring to, I will link up in the show notes, but they're like in the early 100 range. I can tell you that. But having profit is important. So you don't have to go big. You don't have to start with I think 10% is a good ultimate goal to reach, but you don't have to start there. You can start with 1% or even 5%. 5% would be solid. Start with 1%, but figure out what a small percentage is that you can actively set aside before you're allowed to spend any of that money on your business or before you pay yourself. What would be a small percentage you would like to stash away for yourself for profit? Okay, so once you get these two percentages, if you have a taxes percentage and a profit percentage, you just add them up. So if you have 20% for taxes and 1% for profit, then it's 20% total. And since we already did the work of adding the your personal income, how much you would like to make on an annual basis, and we did the business expenses on an annual basis, we added that up. That goes on the top of the equation, and you just divide that by 1 minus the total of percentage. Now, the percentage has to be decimals, so a percentage is, to get it to a decimal, you just divide by 100. And so 0.21, 1 minus 0.21. And what is that? That is 0.79. Okay, so whatever the total amount you had divided by, in this case, it's 0.79. And that's going to get you your total revenue goal. So I just walked you through the easy profit math. It's even easier when you download the roadmap. And then I even send you a video that walks you through how to do it, as I show you using the roadmap. So it's a really great resource for you. You can get it by going to wanderwealthy.com/roadmap. Click the link in the description, whatever you want to do. But when you do this calculation, this is what happens. You have a specific number that is personal to you, that has purpose and profit baked into it. That is a magical thing that most business owners don't have. Most business owners are just trying to hit 6 figures. Or in some cases, they're just trying to replace their income from their traditionally employed job. Or maybe they're trying to hit those 5-figure months, but they don't know what the purpose of that money really is, what that money can really do for them. And if you do this work, you'll know. And kind of swinging back to the intro of this episode and talking about how, it's a little bait and swishy for me to say this is your plan for your 6-figure year, because your number might not be 6 figures. You might be able to get by just fine making $70,000 or $60,000 a year in your business alone. And then, maybe $30,000 is paid out to you and the rest kind of goes into the other places. And that's okay. It's okay to have a business that isn't this vanity number 6-figure mark. It's also okay to have a business that needs 6 figures or multiple 6 figures, or you want to build it to the 7-figure or the 8-figure mark, whatever that is. Figure. I get sick of saying that word. But whatever is appropriate for you, that's the goal you want to be aiming for. So although this marketing speak is great and it's aspirational, what I want you to do is figure out your actual number, because it's going to be specific. It's going to give you and your subconscious mind something to look at and go towards and run full speed to, and pop in these opportunities that you weren't paying attention to before, but now they're there because that's the number you've been after. And it's going to have that purpose there. You're going to know why you're saying yes to these opportunities, because you want to be able to pay yourself that number that you set for yourself. Or you want to be able to save for taxes. You should always be saving for taxes, by the way. But the numbers do show up. I worked with a client recently, and this is a personal finance client, and we were looking at her budget, and I was saying, if you can just find an extra $100 a month, that's going to buy you a lot of breathing room. It's going to allow you to relax, and we're going to be able to start making some great progress on some of the goals that you have. And she's like, all right, well, $100 per month. It was 2 or 3 days later, she emailed me. She had this long email, and it was awesome. I loved it. So many great things that she was sharing with me. But at the bottom, she goes, oh yeah, and by the way, a friend asked me to, pick up groceries for her father while she's out of town for the next few months, and there's my extra $100. And I'm like, how amazing is that? How amazing is that the universe showed up for you? But even more importantly, her subconscious mind showed up for her. This could have happened months ago, and maybe her friend would have suggested this and said, maybe I'll pay you $80. And maybe she would have been like, let's do 100. But in that case, maybe she just said, yeah. Or maybe she would have said, no, I don't really have the time. It's not worth the effort, even though it's a small amount of effort, whatever it is. But in this opportunity, it was like, ding, ding, ding. That's exactly what I've been looking for. And so it's so much easier to say yes or no to things that don't align with what you want. Okay, so step 2 is calculate it. Step 3, this is where we get into the planning. We have our number. We are comfortable with it being specific, and now it's time to break it down. So this is the stuff that I love after we get through all of the nitty-gritty, kind of sludge through the mud of like, what are all those costs? What are all the expenses? What is the income goal that you want to hit? Once we get through all of that, now we have a number, we get to play with it. Whether you have a coaching business or maybe you're product-based, maybe you are creating educational content, you don't do any coaching, whatever it looks like, you can utilize your purpose-driven revenue goal and figure out how it's going to spread out throughout the year. So this can help you inform, when you're going to launch and what those goals even more specifically look like for that launch. Or maybe you are trying to decide how many people to take on for coaching. Maybe you're trying to decide, how many people can I serve? And you're looking at, well, these are my revenue goals. What's appropriate for me to charge them? Do I need to change my prices? And you can really figure out how it's going to spread out throughout the year. Now, what I like to say is, let's say you have, how can we make this easy? Let's say you have a goal of 6 figures exactly. Let's say that you did the math and it's right on spot on the dot, $100,000 to bring into your business for the year. Okay, great. So we know you want $100,000. How are we going to break that up? And the best way, I think, especially for entrepreneurs to break up any goal or anything that they're going after is to do it in quarterly chunks, because so much can change in the course of 3 months. Like 3 months ago, I had none of the plans that I have now. So much can change. So break it up into 3 months, 3-month quarters increments. And so in this case, you might be going, okay, that means in the next 3 months, I need to hit $25,000 in the next 3 months if I'm going to break it up evenly. Now, what you can also do is you can graduate it. So maybe the first month you're aiming for $10,000. And then the second month you're aiming for $25,000. And I'm really going to challenge myself now. In the third month, you're aiming for $30,000, and then the final quarter, you're aiming for 35. I think that adds to 100. I hope it adds to 100. But you guys see what I mean. You can graduate it up if that feels more natural to you, especially if, maybe this past year in 2019 you did a 50K year and now you want to really uptick to the 100K. But again, you can break it up into a point where you have these really specific launch goals that are even more into a container. And what I really love about this, so break it up into those 90 days, go after it. Whether you bust it out or you fall a little short, utilize that as information for you to go into the next quarter with a new goal, because you can always just adjust your goal from there. So maybe you only do 5K in the first 3 months. And so the next month was 25 and now you're upping it to 30, or maybe you're going to readjust the entire graduated plan. Whatever that needs to look like for you, allow it to look that way. And because this is your plan and this is your business, and it needs to also make sure that it aligns with what you want ultimately and what you are capable of showing up and creating. But this leads into step 4. So when we break it down, you can break it down over those different ways. You can also allow it to adjust as you go. It's also a flowing goal, so know that. But getting into step 4 is letting this number inform your decisions as well. So I hinted towards this already, but you can utilize this number to help you determine how many products am I launching this year, or how many courses or programs or whatever your business, however it's structured. You can use it to inform your pricing, which is super important. I think that's really important whether you are launching a product or you're doing, coaching packages, is to know, well, this is what it takes for me to run my business. I need to make a living. My business has expenses. So your revenue goal, or if you want to think about it the other way, your prices are feeding into your revenue goal. Like, all of your prices are just a breakup of your revenue goal, and they should reflect that. Because your revenue goal, the way that we've calculated, it's not just like, oh, I want to hit 6 figures, so let me charge each of my clients $100,000. So I only have to take one. Sorry, I did that wrong. But you see what I mean? It's not it's not a vanity number. It is a purpose-driven goal. You know exactly what the costs are that are involved in your business. You know exactly what income you need or want or dream to make. And that is incorporated into the act of doing business, because your business is your job. And even if you are side hustling, and so the business is a side hustle, what do you want your business to cover for you in your personal life? Assuming you have a traditional job and that covers all of your costs, or maybe you have a partner who covers all of your costs, or maybe you have your parents who cover all of your costs. Whatever that looks like for you, doesn't matter. What do you want your business to cover for you? Again, if it's your full-time job, it needs to cover your full-time living. And there's no reason to live, on less if you don't want to, just because you have to charge less. That shouldn't be the result. You can find people who are best aligned with your prices, knowing that you're providing the value, of course, that you can provide for them. I think we'll do a future episode on pricing and mindset around pricing, because I've been working with a lot of my clients on this and I'm obsessed with it, but more to come on that. But you can utilize this revenue goal to help inform your prices, which I think is the most important, but also when you launch, how many times you launch, what you're launching, what your products are, what your services are going to be, and so many more things. But so few people actually go through the effort of determining, like, what does my business actually need to make to support the life that I want to live and to run the business that I've even been living or been running over the past year or so. So take a chance to answer that question. Okay, and then we get into step number 5. And step number 5 is, kind of a catch-all. It's really about coming back to the mindset. So the first step was about getting comfortable, getting specific. Step number 5 seems almost contradictory to it, but it's that this whole plan of you planning out your 6-figure year, remember that it's a plan. It's not a prophecy. And I think, and I hope that can take the pressure off of this kind of plan of setting these revenue goals. And whether you come from the aspect of, I don't want to cap myself of all of my abundance, or I don't want to fail myself, and if I set a goal and I don't hit it, I'm going to fail. Know that, like, this isn't something that anyone is holding you, shackling you up. And if you don't hit it exactly, the world is going to end. It's purely a plan that's going to help your subconscious mind get after it and inform all of the decisions that you're going to make. And it can change. You can decide to change the plan 3 months in. In fact, I encourage you to recalculate your purpose-driven revenue goals every 3 months. Because like I said, 3 months ago, my business was doing so many different things. In the last 3 months, I've made a lot of hiring decisions. I've decided to, onboard some people so I could off-weight my plate. And it's been amazing, but I've obviously had to make adjustments then into my goals. And my business has evolved and changed as well. I'm really close to being booked out again. for the second time this year, and it's amazing. I did say I was booked out, I think, but I've decided to open up 3 more business coaching slots to go into the new year. So if you are interested, let me know. You can go to my website or go to wanderwealthy.com/apply and we can jump on a call. You can fill out the application and we'll just see if it's the right fit. But I have 3 more spots for you if you're interested. But I think what's really important is this is not a prophecy. It's just a plan. And it's really there for you to just utilize as, it's essentially a business plan, but chunked into just a 1-year segment. And you can utilize it to help you make decisions to really rest your haunches on when you need to have some more tangible data points, especially if you're like getting on a sales call with a client, you're going to say your prices and you can feel good about your prices in that way. Because like I said, your prices are feeding into your revenue goals, and your revenue goals are based off of actual costs that you incur and goals that you have for your business. So in addition to this, there's so much mindset work that needs to go on in accordance to doing this goal setting and planning for your business. And especially for business owners, I think in the first couple of years, you think, oh, it's just the numbers. I'm just going to show up and do the numbers stuff and charge people. And you recognize how much more difficult things really are. And for some people, they still make it easy and it's great. And for others, they really feel paralyzed and stuck because they didn't realize it was going to be this much work. It was going to be challenging, not on a level of doing business is relatively simple. And it can be relatively easy, but a lot of us allow our ego and our mindset and our own limiting beliefs keep us from seeing the simplicity of business. And so there's a lot of mindset work that needs to go into it. And I hope that the 12 days of money mindset are going to be helpful for you. If you are wanting to dive more into the mindset work behind pricing, behind understanding, how you might be avoiding your finances or why you might be avoiding your finances or any of the negative or just uneasy feelings you might have around the topic of money, then I invite you to join us in the next Payday Party Workshop, because that's where we really blend the two. We do this goal setting and this planning, and we do it in accordance with the actual mindset work that is required to allow you to take those leaps in full confidence. So if you're interested, wanderwealthy.com/party to get on the guest list. And within the next couple of weeks, as we are winding down the year, you will be one of the first to know if you are on the guest list when the registration opens for the Payday Party Workshop. It's such a fun time. We have so much fun. It's always super intimate, so I love it. All right, that's the 5 steps to planning your 6-figure year, or whatever figure year you're trying to plan for, however the commas and the decimals lay, let them lie as they might. But yeah, download the Easy Profit Roadmap, wanderwealthy.com/roadmap, do the Easy Profit math, get comfortable with getting specific because it is going to help you, and know that it is a plan, it's not a prophecy. There's no shackles holding you to hitting those goals or not allowing you to exceed them. So you can do as you please, and it should be a living, breathing plan. It should flow and flex as your business and your life flows and flexes. So thank you so much for joining me for another podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please share it over on Instagram. Go ahead and screenshot, tag me at Tess_Wicks. I will absolutely send you a little message of love and light. And until next time, I hope you all wander wealthy.